Round one. Fight. All set. KO. Round two. Fight. KO. You win. Get ready for the next battle.
I just realized I'm pretty sure my mic has been off this whole time. Oops. Anyway. If you comment, I'm pretty sure it will read it to me. I didn't want to obstruct the view. This beautiful game. I'm sorry for the icon, by the way. It kind of looks Nazi-ish, but it's not, obviously. This is a Chinese man, as far as I understand. I mean, this is me, clearly. You can see the penguin. Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't think I've ever actually fought against this guy.
Take out the trash. Round one. Fight.
Oh, what? Oh. See, if I would have just kicked him. Ah. Block my throws. Yeah.
KO. Round two. Fight.
Yes. My cat Hamlet sitting right next to me. Whoa, that was cool. He's a DLC character, which I paid handsomely for, of course. Cool, $2.99.
Get ready for the next battle.
If I can hear myself. Combo.
Target destroyed. Concluding evaluation. Well done.
Wagon train rolling along, they fade from my vision, and in time will be gone. I see an eagle in space.
say. Respecting as it was.
Is clear.
Cause he gets up in the morning and he goes to work at night. And he comes back home at 5:30, gets the same train every time. Cause his world is built on punctuality, it's never paid. And he's all so good, and he's all so fine, and he's all so healthy in his body and his mind. He's a well-respected man about town, the best thing's so conservatively. And his mama goes to meet him while his father pulls the mane. And she stirs the tea with counseling while discussing foreign trade. And she passes looks as well as bills at every suave young man. Cause he's all so good, and he's all so fine, and he's all so healthy in his body and his mind. He's a well-respected man about town, doing the best things so conservatively. And he likes his own, and he likes his bags the best, cause he's better than the rest. And his own sweat smells the best, and he hopes to grab his father's wrist when the paper passes on. Cause he's all so good, father knows the best about the matrimonial snakes, 'cause he's out so good. some may reach for the stars, others will end behind bars. What the future has in store, no one ever knows before. Yet we would all like the right to find the key to success, that elusive ray of light that will lead to happiness. Tomorrow is my turn, no more doubts, no more fears. Tomorrow is my turn when my luck is returning. All these years I've been learning to save fingers from burning. Tomorrow is my turn, no more doubts, no more fears. Tomorrow is my turn to receive without giving. Make life worth living. Now it's my life I'm living. My only concern for tomorrow is my turn. Summer is gone, there's another to come. You can't stop years drifting by, even if you want to try. Though time may help you forget all that has happened before, but honey, it's too late to regret. What is gone will be no more. Tomorrow is my turn, no more doubts, no more fears. Tomorrow is my turn when my luck is returning. All these years I've been learning to save fingers from burning. Tomorrow is my turn to receive without giving, to make life worth the living. Now it's my life I'm living and my only concern. For my living, my baby, tomorrow is my turn.
Twoi wojownicy dostrzegli ukrytych przeciwników. Wróg wypatrzył nasze ukryte jednostki. smack is zwycięzcą.
Different breeds strength. I fear nothing. Penthesilea. Battle home.
Twoi wojownicy odzyskują animusz.
Serving our queen! Penthesilea! Warrior women! We move! Onward, double time! We move! Onward, pick up the pace! Got nothing left! Right then! It's an
David courts young black voters and tests out a new campaign tactic, playing clips of her opponent Donald Trump at her rally. Israeli airstrikes increasingly threaten areas once considered safe havens for Lebanese civilians already displaced by violence. And in his new book, Bob Woodward pulls back the curtain on the Biden and Trump presidencies and their starkly different relationships with controversial world leaders.
All of the moments are very, very tense because the stakes couldn't be higher.
Major funding for the PBS NewsHour has been provided by the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions. and friends of the NewsHour, including Kathy and Paul Anderson, and Camilla and George Smith.
The Charles F. Kettering Foundation, working to advance inclusive democracies. Learn more at kettering.org.
It really matters when you have an opportunity to give back.
Being part of something that's bigger than myself, that's what brings me happiness.
Being able to integrate your professional career with some of these other things that are important to you, it's critical to be happy at the end of the day.
You know, this is our community too, and we want to participate and give back to it.
People want those opportunities to make an impact and a difference.
Our economic and manufacturing systems will become more resilient, more flexible. We would become unparalleled in maintaining the essential supply
The John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, fostering informed and engaged communities.
And we would modernize our fleets to take advantage of newly discovered regions.
And with the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions.
Alien Facade have continued to race ahead of us in their mastery of phase technology. Reports of strange structures empowering devastating new fleet tactics have become increasingly frequent. The Advent Deviants have proven to be our greatest threat.
This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you.
The collective will.
Thank you.
Bent on our destruction.
Welcome to the NewsHour. 3 weeks to go until Election Day, and the race for president remains a dead heat. Vice President Kamala Harris is in Detroit tonight, meeting with business owners and hitting the radio waves to make her case, especially to black male voters. But we start tonight in Chicago, where Donald Trump talked tariffs and tax cuts at an economic event and defended reported conversations he's had with Vladimir Putin since leaving office. Here's Stephanie Sy.
Donald Trump faced a grilling at the Economic Press Club of Chicago today and was evasive when asked directly about his recently reported phone calls with Russia's president.
Can you say yes or no whether you have talked to Vladimir Putin since you stopped being president?
Well, I don't comment on that, but I will tell you that if I did, it's a smart thing. If I'm friendly with people, if I have a relationship with people, that's a good thing, not a bad thing, in terms of a country. He's got 2,000 nuclear weapons, and so do we.
Bloomberg News editor John Micklethwaite also questioned Trump's plan for broad tariffs.
Yes, you're going to find some people who will gain from individual tariffs. The overall effect could be massive in terms of the economy.
I agree it's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It must be hard for you to, spend 25 years talking about tariffs as being negative and then have somebody explain to you that you're totally wrong.
Donald John Trump! The interview comes one day after a bizarre Trump town hall in Oaks, Pennsylvania.
Hold it, please. A doctor, please. Doctor.
The event was twice interrupted by medical emergencies in the audience. As medics responded,
put on Pavarotti singing Ave Maria. Nice and loud.
Trump requested Italian opera from the DJ. Then Trump turned the town hall into a half-hour listening party after the two ill attendees were carried away on stretchers.
Those two people that went down are patriots, and we love them. Yes. And because of them, we ended up with some good music, right?
Meantime, Vice President Kamala Harris is in Detroit, Michigan tonight, continuing to try and shore up support from black men. She participated in a radio town hall with Charlemagne the God, host of The Breakfast Club.
Part of the challenge that I face is that they are trying to scare people away because they know they otherwise have nothing to run on. Ask Donald Trump what his plan is for Black America. Ask him. I'll tell you what it is. Look at Project 2025. Project 2025 tells you the plan includes making police departments have stop and frisk policies.
It's the latest stop on her multi-platform media blitz aimed at younger black voters.
The VP, are you with me?
I'm with you. This interview aired yesterday with The Shade Room, another outlet with a massive black audience.
We capped the cost of prescription medication at $2,000 a year for seniors and capped the cost of insulin at $35 for our seniors. That's our grandparents, our parents. Black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. His plan would eliminate that cap.
Harris is trying new tactics at her rallies, too.
Please roll the clip.
In Erie, Pennsylvania last night, she played out a highlight reel of Trump's recent comments, calling on the National Guard and possibly the military to handle, quote, the enemy from within.
Donald Trump is increasingly unstable and unhinged. And he is out for unchecked power. That's what he's looking for.
Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, was in Pennsylvania today to try and win over rural voters.
Family farms, we share a proud tradition, history of feeding and fueling this country. Rural neighbors, foundational to America's success. And I promise you this, Vice President Harris and I, when we win this election, we will have rural America's back just like they've had our back.
Walz will rally in Pittsburgh tonight as President Biden heads to Philadelphia. And Trump's VP pick, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, will hold a town hall in Lafayette Hill, a Philly suburb. Both campaigns have their eyes locked on the Keystone State. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Stephanie Tsai.
Let's turn now to a veteran Republican strategist to take a closer look at how the Trump and Harris teams are navigating the weeks that remain in this election. Mike Murphy is a veteran GOP advisor and media consultant who served as a senior strategist on John McCain's presidential campaign and has also worked on campaigns for Mitt Romney and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you.
So Donald Trump sounded pretty comfortable today about his election day prospects, that his campaign's doing really well in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona. Democrats acknowledge that they're going to have to fight for every vote. Kamala Harris, in speaking with Charlemagne today, said that this will be a tight race, but she says, I'm going to win. What's your assessment of this race 3 weeks out from Election Day?
Well, I think it is an absolute 50-50 coin toss. She's a little bit ahead in the national vote, but in our modern era, it's quite possible to win the national popular vote and lose the presidency because of the way the Electoral College works. So when you look at those key states, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and potentially North Carolina, Trump's doing better there than he is nationally. And I think in the last 7 or 8 days, he's gone from a tiny bit behind to a tiny bit ahead in many of those states. Some he's always been ahead. So they're upshifting at the Harris campaign, and they need to. I think they've kind of, you know, this is all within the margin, but they've run out of steam a little, and they know it. So you're seeing her doubling down, increasing aggression, doing all the things a smart campaign does in this situation to close the race, and she needs to.
Well, the Harris campaign, in talking with some Democratic operatives, they believe that they need to drive up Donald Trump's negatives. That's why they're trying to goad him into another debate. They're criticizing him for backing out of that 60 Minutes interview because they believe that the more the public sees of Donald Trump, the more the public will be reminded of why he wasn't reelected back in 2020. Do you agree with their theory of the case, or I guess in this case, the theory of the race?
You know, I partially agree. I think it's a bit of a dangerous game because the perception to Trump is pretty dug in. People don't like Trump. They're trying to find out if she is an acceptable alternative. The main dynamic of this race is people are unhappy with the incumbent party. They think things were better off for them economically 4 years ago. If a Republican without the baggage of a Donald Trump, which is epic, were running, that Republican would be well ahead right now. So Trump is holding down the Republican opportunity. So reminding people of all his problems and projecting them forward is good politics for them, but it's secondary. The most important thing they've got to do is win the battle over defining Kamala Harris, who is far less known than Trump is. Her numbers are more fragile, and if Trump defines her better than she defines herself, if they see her as a Biden sidekick and is part of that incumbent structure they want to throw out based on inflation and economic pain, she's going to lose. So it's very seductive to make the supporters you already have happy by banging on the villain they already don't like. She has to move the needle on her. Now, attacking Trump can do that. Comparatively, it can show her in charge. I like the new stepped up things they're doing, but they got to close the deal on her, which means she has to do more, get out there more, because the campaign had a pretty weak schedule for the last 10 days. Now they're shifting forward. That is a good thing, but they need more of it, particularly convincing people she represents change from Biden and a better economic future. She is not more of the same.
Let's talk about the ground game, because the Harris campaign is running what I think is safe to call an expansive version of a traditional political field operation. The Trump campaign seems to be banking on this idea that the people who already voted for him will vote for him again. The folks who voted for him in 2020 will come out again, and then they're trying to reach sort of smaller groups of irregular voters. Compare and contrast their get out the vote operations.
Well, she has more of the traditional spend. She has more money, more resources. It's a more professional campaign in many ways. But the ugly little secret of field in a presidential race, where turnout is generically high, far higher than like midterms, which are about a third less. Turnout is not as important because you already get a large percentage of vote going. So it can be a useful builder at the edge, but only if you have a good message. If Kamala Harris can't close the deal in the next 10 days with early voting, starting to skyrocket, all the turnout in the world won't save it. On the other hand, Trump's turnout operation is much weaker, but again, he's a known quantity, and Trump is being propelled by a force he didn't create. The perception people have that things cost too much now, they were cheaper 4 years ago, and we need a new economic manager. As much as they don't like Trump, people think he did a better job running the economy than the Biden-Harris administration. Now, she's closed that gap some, but that is still the mighty force propelling Trump, and Trump may not need turnout to win, again, if she cannot convince people she's the right kind of change.
So the Trump campaign strategy of trying to reach what some people call, low propensity voters, irregular voters, we can use groups of young men, for instance. Trump has been doing a lot of podcasts aimed at young men. Do you think that'll produce dividends?
I don't think any of this stuff, it's all feathers against a bowling ball. The big drivers here are, can Kamala Harris show us she's out there earning it and connect to people that she's the right kind of change? Or can Donald Trump successfully prosecute the kind of generic case that these people, this administration of which she is an integral part, have done a terrible job in the economy. She is liberal and out of the mainstream, which is what a lot of his advertising beats her up on. And so you got to fire him and let me fix the economy. That's the epic battle here. All this other stuff is not unimportant, but it's sort of at the margins. And I think the biggest factor between now and Election Day is getting Kamala out of a little bit of this bubble they've had her on. Let her campaign create the music of the campaign, that she is a happy warrior out there working hard, dawn to dusk, earning it. That's been missing the last 10 days. I think in the last 2 or 3 days they're doing it, and I applaud that. Because without it, I don't think they're going to win.
Mike Murphy, a real pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And tomorrow we will speak with Democratic campaign strategist James Carville to get his take on the presidential race. And we start today's other headlines in Georgia, where a judge has ruled that county election officials must certify the state's election results. A Republican on Fulton County's election board had claimed that local election officials could refuse to certify. But in his ruling, Superior Court Judge Robert McBurney said concerns about fraud or systemic error are to be noted and shared with the appropriate authorities, but they are not a basis to decline to certify. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger today highlighted the importance of this part of the democratic process.
We've always believed that everyone should follow the law and follow the Constitution. That's an American value. And so I think that's very important that that is affirmed, in the judicial system. And we'll make sure that we follow the law and follow the Constitution in everything we do.
The ruling comes as early in-person voting started today in Georgia. Election officials said that the state shattered its record for the first day of early voting. China, Iran, and Russia are increasingly partnering with cybercriminals to target the U.S. and other nations. That's according to a new report by Microsoft, which says its customers face more than 600 million cybercriminal and nation-state attacks every day. The report cites one example where hackers with links to Iran infiltrated an Israeli dating site and then tried to sell or ransom the information it gathered. Microsoft says the data show the ongoing impact of cyber operations in broader geopolitical conflicts. Authorities in New Mexico say the number of migrant deaths in the state have increased tenfold in recent years. New data shows that more than 100 bodies were found near the border in the first 8 months of this year. That's compared to 9 bodies found back in 2020. Many were discovered near the El Paso, Texas border crossing. It's unclear why more bodies are ending up there, though experts say that smugglers are increasingly steering migrants into dangerously hot areas of the state. South Korean officials say that North Korea blew up roads and railways today that once connected the two countries. The latest action comes after North Korea accused the South of using drones to drop propaganda leaflets over its capital, Pyongyang. South Korean security cameras captured the explosions on the northern side of the heavily armed border between the two countries. South Korean officials called the move highly abnormal and regressive.
What North Korea has done today is a clear violation of the Inter-Korean Agreement. We see it as a very abnormal act, and the South Korean government is strongly condemning it.
The South Korean military responded to the explosions by firing warning shots near the southern part of the border and say they're on a heightened state of readiness for any aggression from the north. Boeing laid out plans today to try to raise as much as $25 billion to help its troubled finances. In back-to-back regulatory filings, the plane maker said it could raise the cash over the next 3 years by issuing new stock or debt. Boeing also plans to enter into a new $10 billion credit agreement with banks. The company has lost more than $25 billion since the start of 2019. An ongoing strike by thousands of workers who build some of its most popular planes is only adding to Boeing's financial pressures. On Wall Street today, stocks stepped back from recent records. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped more than 300 points, falling below the 43,000-point level. The Nasdaq lost more than 180 points, or about 1%. The S&P 500 also ended lower on the day. And the pandas have landed. 11 months after the National Zoo's 3 panda residents made their way back to China, 2 new bears are here to take their place in Washington's National Zoo. Bao Li and Qing Bao landed at Dulles Airport this morning as part of a 10-year agreement with Chinese authorities. The zoo was closed today in anticipation of their arrival. The animals will go through an extended quarantine and acclimation period before they're introduced to the public, so panda fans will have to wait for now. And still to come on the NewsHour, renowned journalist Bob Woodward on his new book about the wars in Ukraine, the Middle East, and the U.S. presidential campaign. A behind-the-scenes look at how the Associated Press determines the winners of thousands of races in this year's election. And a documentary filmmaker uses Legos to tell the story of music legend Pharrell Williams.
This is the PBS NewsHour from the David M. Rubenstein Studio at WETA in Washington, and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.
The push and pull of the U.S.-Israel relationship was on full display today as the U.S. warned Israel it could cut off arms shipments unless Israel allows more aid into Gaza. At the same time, Israel and the U.S. appear to be in sync on how Israel will strike Iran in response to its recent ballistic missile attack on Israel. Nick Schifrin is here with reporting on all of this. So Nick, let's start with Gaza. What did the Biden administration warn today?
Yeah, U.S. officials are increasingly worried about humanitarian conditions in Gaza since Israel launched a relatively new operation in the last 2 weeks. The UN says some 400,000 Gazans have been trapped by intense airstrikes and ground operations. Only dozens of trucks have entered since October the 1st, and the U.S. says aid delivery overall has fallen 50% from its peak. So, Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin sent a letter to their counterparts with a long list of demands, including enable 350 trucks per day into Gaza. The number right now is a fraction of that. Enact humanitarian pauses for the next 4 months. Allow the displaced who are currently sheltering on the beach in a designated humanitarian zone to move inland before the winter, and to publicly reaffirm there is no policy of forced evacuations from northern Gaza. U.S. officials say that this is not a threat, but they point out that U.S. law requires the administration to, quote, prevent weapons sales if the U.S. formally declares that Israel is arbitrarily blocking U.S. aid into Gaza. Here's the State Department spokesman today, Matt Murray.
We know that it's possible to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza. We know it can be done. We know that the various logistical and bureaucratic obstacles can be surmounted. And so it is incumbent upon the government of Israel to surmount those challenges and get assistance in.
Back in April, U.S. aid and a division of state, Jeff, argued that Israel was already arbitrarily blocking aid into Gaza. And back then, Blinken used a snapshot in time rather than months of arguments to argue that Israel was not arbitrarily blocking the aid. This time, the U.S. has given Israel 30 days to comply, despite the fact that nothing in U.S. law obligates a warning, which means that the deadline is after the U.S. election.
On the other hand, Israel and the U.S., as we said, seems more in sync with how Israel will respond to Iran's most recent attack. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, an official familiar with the issue tells me that Israel and the U.S. have agreed on the nature of Israel's response to Iran's unprecedented October the 1st ballistic missile attack. Some 180 Iranian ballistic missiles, you see them there, hitting Israel, mostly near military and intelligence sites in Israel. Publicly, President Biden and privately, U.S. officials have told Israel that they would oppose strikes on Iranian energy or nuclear sites. And instead, they want Israel to essentially target parallel sites, military or intelligence sites in Iran. The official familiar with this issue tells me that Israel's response will be, quote, mainly military targets, quote, substantial. And while they won't preview the timing, this person says that it will happen before the U.S. election. U.S. officials hope that the nature of Israel's strike will end this round, rather than inspire Iran to launch another round of ballistic strikes, and the U.S. has made that hope clear to Iran.
Have U.S. officials messaged Iran about the reported threats against Donald Trump?
They have, absolutely. As we've reported here, U.S. intelligence briefed former President Trump and his campaign in the campaign's words of, quote, real and specific threats from Iran to assassinate him in response to the death of Qasem Soleimani that Trump ordered in Baghdad in early 2020. And a U.S. official confirms to me, quote, at the president's direction, we have sent messages to the highest levels of the Iranian government, strongly warning them to cease all plotting against Donald Trump and former U.S. officials. And the U.S., Jeff, would consider an attempt on Trump's life an act of war. Biden has already told the Secret Service to provide former President Trump every level of protection they can. Trump campaign recently asked for more. They asked for military aircraft, including, and for its part, Jeff, Iran denies any plotting against former President.
Okay, Nick Schifrin, thank you for all that reporting. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to shift our focus now to Lebanon, where Israel and Iran's strongest proxy militia, Hezbollah, are fighting what looks more and more like its own war. The U.S. today said it did not approve of Israel's bombing campaign in Beirut over the last several weeks that have led to major civilian casualties. Far from Beirut in northern Lebanon, our Layla Milana Allen reports now on the aftermath of a deadly Israeli airstrike that targeted one known Hezbollah member, but also killed nearly 24 other people. And a warning, images in this story are disturbing.
Civilian structure complete.
Lebanon's war have now climbed its famed mountains, scattered across a rolling hill of olive groves as far as the eye can see, the charred aftermath of an enormous bomb. For nearly 24 hours, paramedics and rescue workers dug through the ruins of this home, hit by an Israeli airstrike yesterday in the northern Lebanese Maronite Catholic village of Aitel. First, they were looking for bodies. Then, they searched for pieces of them. Overturned cars surrounding the house burned as they tried to save who they could.
The weapons being used in these strikes are so powerful that they pulverize not just buildings, but the human bodies inside. These paramedics are digging through the rubble, taking out human body parts. We just saw a charred human foot taken out and placed alone into a body bag.
This is all their relatives have left to bury. But there aren't many members of the family left. 23 of the 29 people who sought refuge here were killed. The other 6 are in hospital in critical condition. Nearly an entire family line wiped out in a moment. They fled here after their Shia village in the south of Lebanon was relentlessly bombarded. With many thousands of Lebanese now sleeping on the streets, they were lucky to have a friend in the north who would take them in. But as more displaced Shia come under fire in areas they fled to, that welcome is turning to fear and threatening to open old sectarian wounds many here hoped had healed.
I welcomed refugees from the south into my home. I've been friends with this family for almost 15 years.
The Hijazi family felt safe here and began to set up a new, if temporary, home. The signs of that life are littered everywhere in the rubble. Blankets and slippers, kitchen utensils, Tupperwares of a leftover home-cooked meal.
Suddenly, a man I didn't know came to offer the families help and money. The situation was peaceful here until that man Israel targeted came, knowing that he was putting those people in danger.
That man, reportedly a low-level Hezbollah member, was the target of the IDF's attack. As happens every day here now, dozens of civilians died alongside him. 2 of them were less than a year old.
As the strikes here become more and more widespread in areas that didn't receive any kind of evacuation notice, people are increasingly afraid that anywhere could be next. This is a very small, peaceful Christian village in the north of Lebanon, surrounded by olive trees, and what happened yesterday came out of the blue for everyone living here.
Neighbor Danny's restful mountain idyll has been shattered. The force of the explosion was so great, 3 of the bodies were propelled through the air into his front garden.
There were dead bodies everywhere. A lot of people died. Smoke was all over the place. It was a terrible scene.
Through the night and on into today, rescue workers searched for survivors and then bodies. One of the family's 2 babies was missing.
The dead body they just pulled out of that car belongs to a baby. He's only a few months old. They couldn't find him until now. They found him in the trunk.
Eventually, they found his small, lifeless body inside a mangled nearby car. The blast had thrown him out of the house and into the wreckage. Lebanese increasingly feel nowhere is safe here. But as Israeli strikes move further into these once secure areas, locals who've opened their homes and their hearts to the more than 1.2 million displaced now fear they'll bring the threat with them.
Of course, after this, I'm more cautious of welcoming refugees from the south because we lost everything, and that's a problem. We are all paying the price, all over Lebanon.
In spite of the danger, Ellie and Danny insist they'll keep doing what they can to help their fellow Lebanese. We are one, they told me. As the carnage here spreads and some attempt to tear open age-old divisions, Lebanese pray they can hold their community and their country together. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Layla Milana Allen in Zarqa, North Lebanon.
Few journalists working today have covered as many presidents as the Washington Post's Bob Woodward. His latest book is out today, and Nick Schifrin spoke with him a short time ago.
Woodward's new book is titled War. It's about war in Ukraine, war in the Middle East, but also a war for the American presidency. Bob Woodward is here. Welcome back. Thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot, Bob Woodward. Let's start in the Middle East. President Biden's policy when it comes to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is often referred to as the bear hug, as in the closer Biden holds Bibi, hopefully the more Bibi will be willing to moderate his behavior per U.S. interests. That's the idea. But in private, you quote Biden calling Netanyahu an SOB, one of the biggest effing a-holes in the world, a bad effing guy, and an effing liar. There comes an unprecedented moment in the Middle East. Biden is trying to get Israel to listen to him when it comes to responding to the October 7th attacks. Did the president feel like Netanyahu listened?
Well, there was listening, but Bibi's going to do what he wants, and he says so to Biden. Look, I'm going to have to do some of these things that maybe you're not going to like. But what's so interesting, there can be an alliance of policy. As somebody in the White House said, that Biden's policy is pro-Israel, but not necessarily pro-Netanyahu.
There was a similar gap between what the president said in public in terms of support for Netanyahu and how he described to him in private that you described with Vice President Harris. You described this meeting that Vice President Harris had with Benjamin Netanyahu back in July. And after the meeting, you quote the Israeli ambassador here saying that the meeting was cordial. But after, Harris comes out and says, I will not stand silent as the people of Gaza suffer. And Netanyahu, you say, was furious.
He was furious because at the meeting, which was a kind of, hey, Israel, United States, everything is fine. And then when she comes out and makes that declaration, which tells you something about her, she's separating herself from some of the Biden policy. And Netanyahu is just burning, furious. But this is just a couple of months ago, and she's liable to be the next United States president, as we know, as he knows. So there's a fury, but it seems to stay private.
Let's switch to Ukraine. You report that by September 2022, U.S. intelligence reports considered exquisite revealed that Putin was so desperate about battlefield losses, the chances that he might use tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine had gone from 5% to 10% to 50%, basically a coin flip, as you quote someone saying. Why? What were the indications that the chances were so high?
What the strain in all of this is U.S. intelligence has gotten better and better, and they actually, at some points, know what's going on in the Kremlin. At one point, they have a human source that's really telling them, so they've got that picture, and they realize that Putin's the autocrat. He's desperate. Any under their doctrine, any catastrophic battlefield loss would mean, we're going to use tactical nuclear weapons. And he does it in private, but in public, it goes from 5%, as you say, up to 50%. And in the White House, they realize 50% is a coin flip. And the Deputy National Security Advisor, John Feiner, realizes what a momentous moment this is and reflects on how this is what it must have been like in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
You describe an all-hands-on-deck order from the president where everybody calls their Russian counterpart, including this conversation between Lloyd Austin and Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. Austin says this, quote, if you did this, all the restraints that we have been operating under in Ukraine would be reconsidered. This would isolate Russia on the world stage to a degree you Russians cannot fully appreciate. Shoigu replies, I do not take kindly to being threatened. Austin, I am the leader of the most powerful military in the history of the world. I do not make threats. And then a couple days later, Shoigu calls back and says, we have this intelligence that says the Ukrainians are thinking about using a dirty bomb, basically releasing radioactive material into Ukraine. Austin replies, this seems to us like you are trying to establish the predicate for using nuclear weapons. Don't do it. Shoigu replies, I understand. How tense was that phone call and that moment?
Well, all of the moments are very, very tense because the stakes couldn't be higher. The idea of Putin, remember who he is, an autocrat. I report that the intelligence agency's assessment of him is that he's not only a brutal leader, he's sadistic. And that's pretty stark.
Let's switch to former President Donald Trump. You report that as president in 2020, Trump sent a bunch of Abbott point-of-care COVID test machines for Putin's personal use, when of course those were in short supply at the time. And that since Trump has left office, he and Putin have spoken as many as 7 times. Do you believe it is still a mystery, as you quote former Director of National Intelligence Dan Coates saying, it's a mystery why Trump treats Putin this way?
Yeah, or is it blackmail, is what Coates asks the question about. But now we see today that Trump is out saying, not denying that he's talked to Putin and say, well,
maybe it would be smart if I did.
Yeah, it would. And when Trump says something is smart, that means he's either done it or he's planning on doing it. So the relationship between Putin And Trump is central to understanding Trump, because what the characteristics of Trump are, he really has no plan. It's just what comes into his mind. He has no team, and he operates alone. This is very different than the kind of relationship that others have had with Putin.
Finally, I wondered if we could look forward. Many of President Biden's aides I speak to say that they don't think that they're going to get the ceasefire in Gaza that they've been looking for. They're not even calling for a ceasefire in Lebanon. And when it comes to Ukraine, they are worried that the best Ukraine can do is hold the line over the next year. And so while they're proud they haven't gotten into these wars with U.S. boots, as you write about, they are worried that their legacy is not ending the wars that started on their watch. Do you hear that from them?
But very important is that he intentionally did not put U.S. troops in Joe Biden, age 81, is somebody who experienced, not in the military, but in politics, something called Vietnam. And he looks at Vietnam as, this is where we sent 500,000 American troops to Vietnam to fight in a foreign war because of that giant danger of allegedly North Korea. I mean, Biden says that's when you step off the cliff, when you put American troops at risk. And by not doing that, he has put the United States in a much better position. And the overall conclusion I reach is one of the things Biden did is he made the homeland safer by not getting involved with U.S. troops in the Middle East or in Asia or anywhere.
Bob Woodward, the book is War. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, candidates are campaigning, absentee ballots are being mailed out, early votes are being cast. It's all leading to November 5th, and one big question: who won? But to find that out, votes actually have to be counted. Our Lisa Desjardins takes a closer look at how the Associated Press keeps track of thousands of competitive races and makes the call.
For decades, millions of viewers like you have turned to the PBS NewsHour on election night.
Polls have just closed.
To see history and to learn the future of the country.
Now the Associated Press, we can report, has officially declared President Clinton.
And for decades, PBS News and hundreds of other news outlets have relied on the Associated Press to count votes and call winners.
And we're hitching our wagon to the AP.
Key race lists are completed.
It is a monumental task. This year on election night, the AP's team of journalists will track over 5,000 competitive races. President, Congress, mayors, and many, many more.
We like to call it the single biggest act of journalism there is.
David Scott is the AP's Vice President of News Strategy and Operations. He oversees the election team.
Our number one most important goal on election night is to be 100% right in our race calls.
100%.
That's our standard. We do care about speed, but only as a secondary factor. It's, never compromise on the accuracy in an effort to be faster.
The AP has been counting the vote for 175 years, including when vote totals from some places were sent back on horseback.
We are really, really proud of the role that we play in the democracy. And the founders didn't think through how we would get from poll close to Inauguration Day. Who's going to count up the votes and who's going to say that there's a winner? And so AP decided back in 1848 that we jump into that process. And we got votes.
We watched the process at the AP's Washington Bureau on one of their final primary nights of this year.
There's usually a rhythm, and it usually starts off slow.
In a quiet corner of the mostly empty newsroom, the election team was keeping track of about 3 dozen races in just one state, deciding when to call a winner in each.
The check mark. There it goes.
But on general election night, this newsroom will be filled, handling a slate of races 150 times larger. No matter the scale, the fundamentals remain the same.
We'll get to a certain point where we actually get a model recommendation.
The AP calls races when it is certain that statistically only one person can win.
We're looking to know one thing: can the trailing candidates catch up? And once we're certain that they can't, then that's when we call the race.
That real-time call takes months of planning, years of experience, and data. Lots and lots of data.
I see it flashing green too. Does that mean you're getting updated votes at that point? Okay.
Starting with the official vote count. That's the actual tally in each race. With tens of thousands of polling places across the country, yeah, it is a big job.
We will have people in place at county election offices. So it's about 4,000 reporters out across the country. And that's just one of the ways that we collect the votes. We also take in data feeds, we're scraping websites, we're looking at websites and manually entering them. We're always looking to get the vote count from as many sources as we can, and never from just one source.
Some places would rather you get it off their website.
But as the numbers come in, the AP also needs to figure out how many votes are left to be counted. How close is this to a final result?
Less than 1% of the vote counted.
To do that, the AP carefully estimates the total number of ballots expected to be cast in each state. As voting methods have shifted, this has become trickier. 30 years ago, fewer than 1 in 10 voters cast their ballot before Election Day. That number grew steadily until the pandemic upended the 2020 election, and nearly 70% of votes were cast early, either in person or by mail. Polls suggest half of voters may do the same this year.
We're looking at how many people are registered. We're looking at what was the turnout in the past parable election. We're looking at how many advance votes are already in the ballot box, information we get from a lot of states. And we sort of plug that all into a model where we are trying to estimate how much vote has been cast.
So in real time, you can adjust,
absolutely.
Is this going to be a bigger election than we thought or smaller?
Right, and then once polls close and we actually start getting ballots in, those actual returns feed into the model as well, and we make adjustments. So you'll see that estimate change over the course of the night. That's not a problem. That's us adjusting to the data.
Further complicating the process, states count and release different types of votes in different order. In battleground Arizona, they start counting mail votes as they're returned, but they don't start releasing results until an hour after polls close. In Pennsylvania, early ballots are not processed at all until Election Day. In New Hampshire, they aren't counted until after polls close.
We're looking for patterns on election night when we're calling races. Are there a class of early ballots that have yet to be counted, and what do we expect those early ballots to say about the course of the election? If we had to wait for 100% of all ballots to be counted, we wouldn't know what has taken place in the election for weeks after Election Day.
If the presidential race is close, as many expect it to be, it may still take days to know the winner, just like it did in 2020.
It says it's a 0% confidence score. What does that mean?
That means that we're not ready to call it.
As the AP Decision Desk works to call the race as quickly as possible, all the data flow into a computer model.
Starting to get a pretty good pattern.
But it's still analyzed by real people.
And you see no way that the other candidates could win?
No. Those observers have added data from another unique way the AP gets election information, its VotePass system. That is, voter surveys of more than 120,000 people across all 50 states. The AP survey is an update and twist on traditional exit polls, where someone would stand outside of polling places and ask people who they voted for. AP now accounts for people who vote early or by mail, or who stay home entirely. To do that, the VotePass team conducts surveys online and on the phone all the way up to when polls close. The data help explain who voted and why.
We're able to analyze smaller slices of the electorate with a margin of error that means we can act on it. So we're able to look at Hispanic voters or African American voters or young voters, but then also combinations of those voters in a way that helps us potentially get to a race call sooner or understand the way that the electorate is shaping up in a level of detail that didn't exist before.
All that 4,000 reporters getting real-time results, months of estimating the likely turnout, and surveys of over 100,000 people. It all leads to the big moment and the actual race call.
They're doing it right now.
David and his team weigh in, then the major calls, including for president in close states, go to the desks of executive editor Julie Pace and Washington bureau chief Anna Johnson.
We'll make sort of that final sign-off to say, yes, let's go with it. Or, often we have some questions we want to answer. Have we considered this? Have we looked at that? But ultimately, it's, just say yay or nay, we're ready to go.
What kind of pressure do you feel?
There's ultimately a lot of pressure in it. On the other hand, we know we're right. We know that information is correct. Our goal then is just to get it out to the world.
In those moments, even on a busy general election night, the crowded newsroom can feel as small as it was for a single state's primary election.
And most of those times it's fairly calm, and I think there's just a lot of focus. So it's quiet? It can be actually somewhat quieter because, people realize we're in a moment and everyone needs to focus and pay attention.
Focus and attention on the AP's biggest act of journalism, a responsibility grounded in a massive, careful, hands-on operation, and a mission they take seriously, no matter which election they're watching or how long it takes to call the winner.
There's always a moment every general election where for a very small amount of time, you're the first person to know who's going to be the next president. You cherish that, and then you get down to business calling that race.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Lisa Desjardins at the AP Decision Desk in Washington.
For himself and as music producer for a string of other artists from Jay-Z to Justin Timberlake. Now his story is being told on film with Lego bricks. It's certainly not your usual approach to documentary filmmaking, but it's the latest from one of today's leading documentary filmmakers, Morgan Neville. Senior arts correspondent Jeffrey Brown spoke with Neville for our Arts and Culture series, Canvas.
And I love music. Like everybody loves music, but I'm realizing I had a different kind of relationship with it.
Early in the new film Piece by Piece, Pharrell Williams looks back at his childhood and how music would utterly mesmerize him.
I didn't even know that I was mesmerized. I just thought that's what all black kids did. I thought we all just stared into the speaker like, whoa.
Pharrell, as he's best known, both heard and saw music as explosions of color and light, a sensory phenomenon known as synesthesia. How to capture the excitement, the strangeness, the journey Pharrell would take from a housing project in Virginia Beach to pop culture fame, that was the job of filmmaker Morgan Neville, and even he's not sure what he's made.
I mean, how do you explain what this film is? That's been the challenge of this from the beginning. It doesn't conveniently fit into any box we're used to.
You've had time to figure it out.
Yeah.
How do you describe it?
It's a docu-bio musical in animation. Whatever that is. So what would you be wearing in this interview then?
One thing it is, a story told with Lego pieces. Traditional documentary-style interviews turned into animation. Other scenes conceived and built as animation from the start. All to creatively capture the mind and works of a hard-to-categorize cultural figure.
Because I'm happy.